Yeah, Mondays are just horrible.
You have to look at the bills and each resident literally just be like, we'll take an advertisement.
No.
That's all.
Is there anyone here who intended to sign up to speak and who hasn't done so already? So here's your last chance.
Hi, this is Steve. We're ready to start planning and development. Thanks.
Are we all set?
We're ready.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, January 28th, 2013 meeting of the Planning and Development Committee. It's about 7:18, and we're ready to begin. We have a quorum. Is there approval of the regular meeting minutes of January 14th? Is there a second?
Second.
Any corrections or changes? Otherwise, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. We'll go right to items for consideration. Do we have anyone that has signed up to speak on any of these issues? I thought I saw someone. Okay. The first is P1, approval of a loan to Housing Opportunity Development Corporation, HODC, for construction at 319 Dempster. The Housing and Homelessness Commission and staff recommend approval of a $20,188 forgivable loan from the city's Affordable Housing Fund to Housing Opportunity Development Corporation. The loan will be used to build a restroom in the common area of the Claridge apartment building at 319 Dempster for use by HODC staff and social service providers that serve its residents, and this is for action.
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Alderman Rainey.
Yes. This is no reflection on this project, but while I was reading the document, I wanted to make sure that I got it in, so I'm going to say it now. I would like to make a referral to, I guess it would be this committee, that we receive a complete report on, number one, the amount of money in the Affordable Housing Fund, number two, how any money has been used thus far, number three, a full-blown discussion of what the purpose of this money was for, and should we take another look at it? Should we take a look at what the regulations are for collecting it? Who should be paying it, et cetera, et cetera. In other words, everything anybody could ever want to know about the affordable housing money.
And that's fine. What was your question specifically about this amount of money?
No,
Okay.
I said this. There's no
Just
reflection
generally.
on this, but
Okay.
it raised the issue in my head of getting information, because it's been a long time since we dealt with this issue.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to know what period of time from the
Since the
initial.
beginning. Oh, absolutely.
Gotcha.
Since the beginning, yeah.
Just so you know, Alderman Rainey and the rest of the committee, Alderman Nguyen and I met with residents at this particular building, and one of the problems was getting supervision for the building, that there was no place for the resident director or the director to have washroom facilities other than relying on a private apartment or someone letting them in.
This makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I mean, they need this.
Alderman Nguyen, did you want to add anything to that?
No, but just very briefly that I think this is a very good move forward. We've had a lot of issues at fire calls at this location because people get locked out, and they are charged more for being locked out. We've talked with the management about this, and this is really what's needed. And since Alderman Fisk and I met with them at that point, HODC had just recently hired a new property manager who came across to us as being an excellent manager, and I believe that at least the calls I've had about the building have dropped significantly since then. So I think this is just continuing to move forward in a positive direction for a building that's been not seriously problematic, but definitely problematic. Yeah.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, all of those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Then P2 is approval of proposed substantial amendment to the City of Evanston Neighborhood Stabilization Program 2 project. Staff recommends approval of the proposed substantial amendment to its Neighborhood Stabilization Program 2, that's NSP2 project. The substantial amendment adds land banking and demolition as an end use to meet a program object to the eligible activities in the city's NSP2 project, and that's for action. Is there a motion?
Move approval. Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I
Alderman Rainey.
Can anybody tell me what the NSP2 rules are for acquiring a vacant lot? We know about foreclosures and vacant building. What about a vacant lot? Do you know what that rule is? No. You don't. Oh, you know.
Good evening. My name is Jolene Saul. I'm the NSP2 specialist for the city. To address your question, so there's kind of two components. So the goal we absolutely have to meet is acquiring 100 units of foreclosed or abandoned housing. So acquiring a vacant lot would not count towards that goal. So it's allowable under NSP2 regulations. We couldn't count it towards that goal, and then the issue becomes a budgetary.
And that's what I was wondering. Is it just a budgetary issue? If we had the money, we could acquire a vacant lot?
Yes.
Alderman Rainey, I just want to say that at our last ward meeting, Ms. Saul and representatives from Crenshaw were there and explained everything about where we want to go with this amendment to HUD.
I think this is an interesting amendment.
It is.
But it's not limited to any specific sites that have been identified. I mean, if I were to come to you on the south end of town with 3 lots, we're just talking about the concept being allowed to, including it in our program. We
want to add the concept, but we have identified right now 4 properties, which would count as 8 units towards our 100-unit goal. They're all located in the 5th ward. And they were units that we acquired, but were in such bad condition that they required demolition. We want to have a reasonable number, so we do want to be able to redevelop and reoccupy a higher number of units. But
if we bought lots that were already vacant, there was no demolition. In other words, there wasn't a unit that had to be replaced. If it was in, for example, in my ward, in one of the tracts, in the census tract, could it be purchased and then made into a passive park with NSP2 money to address all the units?
I think we could potentially. I have to check. So I'm pretty sure we could do that if it was a residential property, foreclosed or abandoned. I'm not sure if we could do it if it started out. So I'm not. I'd have to check if we could do it if it were vacant.
Could you do that?
Sure.
No rush. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments by committee members? Okay. Then all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're on to P3, which is Ordinance 11013, granting a special use for a Type 2 restaurant at 1734 Sherman Avenue for Starbucks. The Zoning Board of Appeals and City staff recommend the adoption of Ordinance 11013, granting a special use permit for the operation of a Type 2 restaurant, Starbucks, at 1734 Sherman Avenue. This is for introduction.
Move approval. Move
Okay.
introduction.
Anybody want to say anything about this? It's exciting. It's in my ward.
It's
I'm
already
really
here,
happy.
right? They're just moving it?
Right. It's just, down the street it's going to be bigger and better. And Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Then P4, approval of reference to Plan Commission by the Planning and Development Committee to conduct a hearing on a text amendment to the zoning ordinance regarding distilleries. Staff recommends that the Planning and Development Committee make a referral to the Plan Commission to hold a public hearing on a text amendment that would increase the allowed production limit for distilleries in Evanston to 35,000 gallons per year. That's for action. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
But we need it with the whole life.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, now we're, is there, again, I'm going to ask, because I saw someone who I thought was signing up to speak. Is there anyone who wants to speak? No. Okay, then we're going to the items for discussion, which is PD1, status of the Fountain Square Fountain. And I'm the one who has referred this to committee. Some time ago, I talked with the mayor about what might be a good Evanston 150 project, and considering the condition of Fountain Square and the infrastructure at the fountain, we thought this would be a good time to address that with private funds. Mr. Gaynor, is there something that you would like to say about the condition of the fountain? Or fountains?
Doug Gaynor, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Community Services. Madam Chair and members of the committee, I provided a very brief report of the condition of the fountain right now and what we might need to do in the very near future. But as time goes on, the fountain is deteriorating, and there will be some significant repairs that will be needed probably in the next 2 to 3 years. And I mean, other than what I've written here, we haven't done an exhaustive study of the, but we do know what we're doing on a pretty much day-to-day basis for maintenance at the facility.
Right. And several years ago, just to bring everyone up to date, the city spent, what was it, $350,000?
Yeah, approximately. It was 2006. We did some minor repairs.
Right, okay. Since that time, the mayor and I have met with the veterans groups and have talked to them about what their preference is in keeping the Veterans Memorial at Fountain Square. We talked about several options in case they would like to relocate, and there are some good reasons to relocate, additional parking, a more prominent location, things like that. But in the end, they decided that they would like to keep the memorial at Fountain Square. So that's fine, and that's good. And I was very, very happy to meet all of them and join in the discussion, and they were delighted to be asked. So thank you to the mayor for helping out with that. But it was a good discussion. So I guess the thought was that this would be a privately funded effort that perhaps would use some money from the Washington National TIF to go out and seek maybe competitive design event to see what interest there might be and what costs would be involved in replacing or redesigning the fountain at Fountain Square. So that's why it's here at the committee tonight, to find out what the rest of you thought about that. Alderman Rainey.
Well, is your vision to retain fountains?
The vision, well, it's Fountain Square. It's Fountain Square, so not to have a fountain at Fountain Square doesn't make much sense. And yes, it would be to do a wonderful fountain. There are communities throughout the United States, I think Kansas City may be one of them, that are known for their fountains. And it seems that Fountain Square would be a very good place to have something that was prominent.
I'm not a fountain expert. Are we saying that it is too costly to maintain the current fountains? I mean, I didn't think the cost appeared that great to take care of them. I mean, no matter what you have there, you're going to have to care for them.
The city manager is going to.
Maintenance was the issue before back in,
Right.
I think it was 2000.
But you're gonna, if you have water and concrete and freezing and heat, and motors.
There's new fountain technology, which is actually less expensive. And,
Madam
City
Chair,
manager.
members of the committee, I do think it's a broader question. Fountain maintenance is an issue in the climate that we're in, and that will be true for anything. But I think the point that Alderman Fisk has raised with staff is is this an appropriate time with another cycle of maintenance 2 or 3 years away to rethink the fountain that's currently there? And is the 150th anniversary of the incorporation of Evanston a good time to do that? I think that the maintenance of whatever fountain is there is something that's an important part of what we do, and our Parks, Recreation, Community Services staff will continue to do it. I think the question, though, now is should we, at this point, look for a new fountain or not? That's, I think, really the question, not the question of ongoing maintenance.
I think we have to look at our ordinance that has to do with donations and contributions, because I think it's pretty clear that it says that if you contribute something to the city that requires maintenance, that you have to provide for an annuity or something to maintain it. So, I mean,
and Alderman Rainey, members of the committee, I don't know that we were looking for one particular benefactor. I think that in my discussions with Alderman Fisk over the last several months on this, that it was probably going to be a community effort, that the city could take the lead if there was a competition. We could staff that, but once a design, a fountain was selected, that it could be a contributions, small contributions, medium-sized contributions, probably a contribution from the city through the Washington National TIF, other contributors. But it's a large project and a large undertaking, and the first stop for such things is a council committee, and that's why we're here.
Do we know what kind of money we're talking about?
Up to $1 million. That's not $2 million, $1 million. That's a guess, and it depends on what type of fountain is designed. I mean, there are wonderful designs that actually are very simple, and the thought is to create a fountain square that's more of a community asset that really brings more people to Fountain Square, calls attention to what has traditionally been the historic center of our downtown. And there are wonderful fountains. I think it might be worthwhile pulling up some designs and sending them off to you on the committee. But that's where a design competition is so good, because you get artists to actually think creatively about what might fit with Evanston.
I'm very partial to the water feature at Millennium Park.
Mm-hmm. Well, and out of that building, out of the side of the maybe World of Beer, it could be like a beer spout.
The old Brewer Stadium, didn't they have it where the guy came down the slide too?
You're right.
We could have that.
There are all sorts of ideas out there, I'm sure.
Again, Madam Chair, members of the committee, if this is something that you would like us to pursue, again, we've done some initial research. I think that's how we discovered that there's a pretty broad price range for municipal fountains. We're certainly not the only community where fountains are important, and if this is something you'd like us to pursue, we'll just take a certain amount of staff time, and with your direction and the council's concurrence over time, we'll be happy to do that.
Okay, Alderman Nguyen.
Well, I think it's a terrific idea. I have never particularly liked Fountain Square. It definitely looked as though it was designed in the 70s. And the beautiful fountain that actually is in the Rose Garden is so gorgeous. But I agree that there are all kinds of wonderful modern fountains. You see them at Millennium Park and lots of other places now. So I think I would support having the staff do some research and looking at this, and maybe making it a community-wide fundraising effort.
Well, I guess what I'm asking for is just to take the next step.
Yep.
And see what might be involved in holding a design competition, the cost of the competition, some creative, just again, getting some creative ideas from artists throughout the United States who are experienced would, I think, just be wonderful, would certainly add to our public art program, and it would be really fun to do.
And to expand it and think a little bit out of the box in terms of using the square in a much more creative way for all of the citizens of the community. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it would be great to do that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would like to move that we request staff to take the next step and investigate the presence of fountains in other communities, and who the artists are, and maybe form a committee. And
cost of the competition, yeah.
And return to P&D with this information.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Very good. Give us a few weeks, we'll do that.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, City Manager. Okay, that's the end. Are there any communications?
We have no communications. We don't anticipate next meeting having a Planning and Development Committee meeting with the cases that we brought. So those that we'll have will be brought to you at the second meeting in February.
Okay, so the next meeting of City Council will begin at 7:15. Okay, so the meeting is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Okay,
And
thank
what
you.
time is City Council going to start?
City Council is going to start at 7:45. That's 7 minutes from now. Okay, thank you very much,
Oh,
everyone.
Didn't you say 7:15?
That's why I was asking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You better say it again.
All right,
People who
okay.
didn't-
I meant that at the next meeting, instead of Planning and Development, the City Council will begin that night, and I don't remember the date that you said.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have to vote on that.
That would be right. It would be right after your AP&W meeting.
No, it can't.
No, it
can't
has to start at
City Council.
7:15. Has to start at 7:15, yeah.
So 7:15 or later, whenever that might be.
Yeah.
The MPW might drive down.
Yeah.
Now, we've got everybody so confused. Okay, and, wait. We have a Tuesday council meeting coming up.
April.
I was wondering what that was.
April, are you sure?
First movement of Georges Bizet's First Symphony in C major, composed in 1855. The composer was only 17 years old, and that work was not played for nearly 80 years. It lay on a shelf into the middle 1930s. Of course, it's now become a standard in the ballet world. The Symphony in C, written by this marvelously talented young composer, Georges Bizet. We're tuned into Exploring Music, and this week we are listening to symphonies by French composers of the 19th century. There's more here than I would have imagined. Drop us a line. Let us know how you like the show. You can write to us via our website, Exploring Music.